The most expensive meal an inmate ordered was filet mignon wrapped with bacon, deveined shrimp sautéed in garlic butter with lemon, baked potato with butter, sour cream, chives and real bacon bits, corn on the cob, asparagus with hollandaise sauce, French bread with butter, goat cheese, cantaloupe, apple pie, vanilla bean ice cream and iced tea. The inmate was Robert Dale CONKLIN, of Georgia. On March 28, 1984, a maintenance man employed at CONKLIN's apartment complex was collecting aluminum cans from the trash dumpster when he discovered dissected human body parts, knives, bloody bedclothes, screwdriver, rope, credit cards, a wallet and miscellaneous papers belonging to George Crooks, all encased in black plastic garbage bags. The body parts were identified as those of attorney George Crooks, who was acquainted with CONKLIN and had begun a physical relationship with him. When CONKLIN's apartment was searched, police found the bed clothing was missing and the mattress appeared to be blood-soaked. The jammed kitchen garbage disposal contained what appeared to be internal organs. When questioned, CONKLIN stated that he and Crooks were wrestling on the bed when he grabbed a screwdriver and stuck him, then pushed the screwdriver into his ear and wriggled the weapon around. CONKLIN admitted to dissecting the body and disposing of incriminating evidence in the dumpster. A book describing the dissection of a body was found on the bedroom floor. At the time of the murder, CONKLIN was on parole for armed robbery and burglary. On March 26, 1984, attorney George Crooks left his office at approximately 3 p.m. because he was not feeling well. After getting a prescription filled, Mr. Crooks was at home in Smyrna, Georgia during the early evening hours. 28-year-old Mr. Crooks knew CONKLIN as they had met at an I-220 highway rest stop. The men had established a physical relationship over a period of time. Mr. Crooks went to CONKLIN's Lake Forest apartment in Atlanta, Georgia on Monday night, March 26, 1984. Mr. Crooks took his codeine medication and both men smoked marijuana. Mr. Crooks remained at CONKLIN's apartment overnight. George Crooks' parents and co-workers were unable to contact him on Tuesday, March 27, 1984. Mr. Crooks' father went to his son's empty apartment and saw his son's open briefcase lying beside the telephone answering machine. Mr. Crooks' automobile was not parked at his apartment and a missing persons report was filed. A maintenance man employed at CONKLIN's Lake Forest apartment complex was collecting aluminum cans from the trash dumpster on Wednesday, March 28, 1984, when he discovered dissected human body parts encased in black plastic garbage bags. The authorities were notified. Fulton County Police Department investigators arrived at the apartment complex dumpster site shortly after 9 a.m. and removed the contents of the large metal trash container. Various body parts, knives, bloody bedclothes, screwdrivers, rope, credit cards, a wallet and miscellaneous papers belonging to George Crooks were recovered from the dumpster. The reverse side of the attorney's business card contained CONKLIN's name and telephone number. A total of 10 plastic garbage bags were removed from the garbage dumpster, 9 of which contained body parts. Mr. Crooks' father positively identified the body as that of his son, George Crooks. The authorities learned that CONKLIN resided at the Copeland Road apartment complex in an apartment located approximately 260 feet from the dumpster site. CONKLIN's apartment was searched on April 7, 1984. The bed clothing was missing from CONKLIN's bed and the mattress appeared to be blood-soaked. The jammed kitchen garbage disposal contained what appeared to be internal organs. Conklin was arrested on April 8, 1984, and advised of the Miranda warnings. At the police department, after again being advised of his rights, Conklin signed the waiver of rights form, made and signed a statement. The Conklin claimed that he and George Crooks were wrestling and struggling on Conklin's bed. However, a co-worker of Conklin's testified that he did not exhibit body bruises during the early morning hours of March 28, 1984. Another co-worker also testified at trial that although Conklin appeared ill at ease on Tuesday evening, March 27, 1984, Conklin did not evidence scars or body bruises. Trial testimony also revealed that Mr. Crooks' coordination wasn't what it should be. In Conklin's statement, he acknowledged that he grabbed a screwdriver and stuck the victim. When Mr. Crooks rolled from the bed, Conklin pushed the screwdriver into the victim's ear and wriggled the weapon around. Conklin attempted to dispose of the victim by cutting up the body. Conklin drove to Mr. Crooks' apartment and removed potentially incriminatory material including an answering machine, tape and cards. Conklin purchased cleaning supplies, knives, gloves, garbage bags, garbage cans and a cart with Mr. Crooks' money. Conklin placed the evidence in the trash dumpster and fled to Florida, subsequently returning to Atlanta, Georgia. Fulton County Associate Medical Examiner Salezaki examined the body pieces of George Crooks. The victim's body had 10 knife stab wounds to the right upper side of the neck which were inflicted prior to the victim's death. Dr. Zaki observed a downward narrow stab wound to the back of the left ear area that tore the ear canal and mastoid area, which wound also occurred before death, and was associated with hemorrhaging. Bruising with swelling to the right ear auricle was consistent with blunt force trauma. A linear scratch to the right cheek area occurred prior to death. Areas of bruising to the right, middle and left portions of the scalp and head that had been inflicted prior to death were consistent with blunt force trauma. Deep neck bruises were inflicted prior to death. The left collarbone area sustained 2 short stab wounds, one penetrating the left lung, while George Crooks was breathing. This wound was consistent with a screwdriver being used as the weapon. The right shoulder area contained 4 stab wounds caused prior to death. Dr. Zaki also observed stab wounds to the left hand inflicted before death. Dr. Zaki testified at trial that George Crooks died as a result of the stab wounds to the chest and neck, with the contributing factor being blunt force trauma to the neck and head. Dr. Zaki further testified that stab wounds to the buttocks and right thigh had been inflicted after the death of the victim. Medical examiner Zaki stated that bruising basically does not occur after death. The 2 weapons used to inflict these injuries were a screwdriver and a knife. The Fulton County Grand Jury indicted Conklin on April 3, 1984. A jury found Conklin guilty of malice murder on June 15, 1984. The jury's recommendation of a death sentence was returned on June 16, 1984. A parolee who fatally stabbed a lawyer with whom he had a relationship and dismembered the victim's body after the murder was executed Tuesday, July 12, 2005 in Georgia. Robert Conklin, 44, was given a lethal injection at the state prison in Jackson for the March 26, 1984, murder of George Crooks, 28. Conklin was pronounced dead at 7:44 p.m. Minutes earlier, the U.S. Supreme Court had rejected 2 petitions for a stay of execution. It was George's 3rd execution that year. Conklin had no final statement, but did ask for a final prayer. after which he said amen. Sherry Parker, a friend of his, sat in the second row of witnesses. When Conklin was strapped to the gurney and before the chemicals were administered, he said hello and smiled at her. She waved back. As the chemicals were administered, he looked at her and said goodbye. His chest heaved and his head tilted backward, and the woman started crying uncontrollably and left the chamber. The victim's brother, Jim, and sister-in-law represented the family as witnesses. Conklin was the third person put to death in Georgia that year, and the 39th in the state since the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty in 1976. Thank you for watching Death Row.